In question 3, we have a table that shows how many times teams from each country have won the soccer tournament called the Champions League. And so in part A, we want to calculate the relative frequencies for each country. So we can see this table gives us the absolute frequencies. It tells us that teams from Spain won this tournament 12 times. Teams from England won this tournament 11 times. Teams from Italy won 11 times as well, and so on. So we want to calculate the relative frequency. So I will add an extra column on this table. And what the relative frequency tells us is how many times has Spain won relative to how many times this tournament has gone on. So to do that, I need to calculate first the total number of wins in this table, or the total number of counts. So I add up 12, 11, 11, 6, 4, and 10. And if I plug that into my calculator, I get 54. So then the relative frequency for Spain is 12 over 54, which I can round to 0.22. The relative frequency for England is 11 over 54, which is 0.20. Similarly for Italy, it'll be the same because they've also won 11 times. For Germany, it's 6 over 54, which is 0.11. Portugal, 0.07. And the other countries, 10 over 54, which I can round to 0.19. So now I have the relative frequencies. So this tells me that Spain won this tournament 22% of the time, whereas Portugal won it only about 7% of the time. So now I can go ahead and construct a bar chart. And my bar chart, on the x-axis, I'll have countries. Make this a little longer. And on my y-axis, I'll graph the relative frequencies. So I'll make my axis marks every 0.05. And now I can start graphing. So first I'll do Spain. They won 22% of the time, so I'll draw a bar about this high. And I'll write 0.22. Next, England and Italy. Their bars will be the same height because they've won the same number of times. Then Germany, 0.11, so about yay high. Portugal, a little less, at 0.07. Oops, and I want to add a little more space for the others, which was 0.19. And that is my bar chart of the relative frequencies. So a bar chart is one way to visualize this table or distribution, as we might call it. Another way to visualize it would be to draw a pie chart. So to draw my pie chart, I'll start out by drawing a big pie. And now, the size of each section or sector of my pie chart corresponds to these relative frequencies. So these relative frequencies all add up to 1 or to 100%. So Spain should take up 22% of my pie. England should take up 20% of my pie, and so on. I can do this by hand, roughly, or if I want to draw an exact bar chart, I could calculate this angle and make sure that it corresponds to 22% of the total number of degrees in this circle. I'll do it roughly for now. So Spain won 22% of the time. That's a little less than a quarter. So I'll put Spain, and I'll say this is 22%. Next, England and Italy each won 20% of the time. So these should be roughly equal sizes. Oops, Italy. And then Germany won about 11% of the time, so about half the size. Portugal, 7% of the time, a little smaller. And then other, just about 19%. And there I have my pie chart. Now, as for which we think is better, I think in this scenario, both of these visualizations, the bar chart and the pie chart, are equally good representations of our data, of our distribution. From our charts, we can see that on average, or most of the time, it seems like countries win about around 20% of the time. We can see that Spain has won the most times, and Portugal has won the fewest times.